Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pop Culture Reacts, and we're back in the world of Ren with the highly uh, suggested, that's the word,
Yeah,
tale of Jenny Screech and Part 3, Violet 2.
I think it was the most recommended Ren song when we did High Ren, and obviously we've
Yeah,
done Money Game since, and even then, like a plethora more of Jenny and Screech. But I guess because the only thing that was running it remotely close was Money Game when we did High Ren, wasn't it?
yeah, and obviously we jumped on Money Game because 3 had literally came out sort
Oh
of
yeah,
at that time, so we sort of jumped on
beautiful
it then.
timing. It was serendipitous.
Exactly. So we have had absolute, slam dunk worldies so far from
Yeah,
Ren.
yeah, we've absolutely loved our Ren experience so far, haven't we? And that being all three parts of Money Game and High Ren. Uh, Loved them all. And you kind of hope you're going to love this one because so many people said go
Yeah,
for this one. I don't know much. Well, like anything, I tried to avoid learning anything about this stuff beforehand. However, I couldn't help but ask one of the commenters just to check this isn't about Screech from Saved by the Bell, is it? And no, it's not. So that I can confirm that this is not a romantic tale of Screech's love.
escapades.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And that's why when it was a mystery part three, because I was thinking, is that Mr. Belding? But no, it is not. Oh yeah, I can't remember most things in life, but somehow I do retain certain Saved by the Bell characters in my head.
I used to love Saved by the Bell.
I think I did as well, although I think it's one of those that if we went back and watched it now,
It's probably
it
shit.
it probably is shit. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a song in three parts, or I guess three individual songs possibly. But I think what we'll probably do is we'll have a blast through the lot, depending on how we're feeling, or we might stop after each one. But you'll find out what we do really. But either way, you're getting a lot in one video.
Exactly. So shall we begin?
Yes, let's do this.
It was a quiet, dark night in an empty street somewhere in London City. Jenny walked alone, she was dragging her feet. She was heading back home to sleep. Well, she knew this town, she knew this floor, because she walked it about 1,000 times before. She wanted to escape. Can you blame? Well, on the very same night, in a different place, there walked this hooded young youth by the name of James. He was 14 years old and out of his brain. He'd been smoking ganja with the boys. James, he grew up to be a kid of the street. His mates called him Screech. He was quick on his feet. He was a liar, a thief. At 14 years old, the devil had set his sights on his soul. As Jenny walked home all alone, she felt scared. Usually she was alright, but it was like there was something in the air. A divine intervention telling her to beware, maybe intuition bogging her and making her so scared. Sirens sound in the distance to the beat of Jenny's feet. A symphony of the night that echoes crime on London streets. Jenny turns a corner, their eyes they meet. Our poor girl Jenny, a boy named Screech. Give me all your money, bitch, give it to me. If you cooperate, then you'll soon be free. I want your purse, your phone, don't fucking look at me. I mean it, bitch, are you listening to me? Jenny freezes statue like a lady shakes stalactite. Feel like liquid nitrogen in the dark night. She tried to find strength to move, but stayed as still as a statue in high-heeled shoes. What the hell you playing at? You playing games with me? I swear to fucking God, I'll slice the rosy off your cheeks. You think I don't mean it, girl? You don't know me. The last thing you see will be a boy code. Screech reached with the sheath of the blade, with the teeth that could bite through steel and slice concrete. And he swung possessed with the devil in his chest, and the statue she was turned to butter in her breath. It was a quiet, dark night in an empty street somewhere in London City. Jenny lay still on the cold concrete. She's found somewhere to sleep. Well, she knew this town, she knew this floor, 'cause she'd walked it about 1,000 times before. I guess that she escaped. It's such a shame.
You know, I'm never going to resist a pausey. Let's split it up into 3 parts. So Jenny, the tale of Jenny. How did that go for you? I guess is the question. You're on mute.
There we go. That was quite harrowing. That was like just again. Obviously, we've seen Bren do this. The 2 vocal tones for different people, and like that, and just the way he tells stories is just so fucking good. Obviously, look at when we talk about Immortal Technique for one who does this as well, who just draws you in with what the story is, where that's going to go, what is going to be the crust of it, and you're just like, pretty sort of easy start of Jenny's just walking home and stuff, and then you automatically sort of know that this other guy, this Screech, is going to be a cunt. You just because the way that he sort of changes his vocals for it, you're just like, oh, this isn't going to be good.
That instantaneous ability to flip that vocal as well is, as you say, it's something that we see a lot of in high end, and you do get it in Money Game, but you're right, it's such a compelling story technique, isn't it? Because you get that flip and it is the same person. But I mean, I think quite often we've been dragged, to be the wrong word, but maybe we've focused a lot more on the songs, even though some of the videos are great. But seeing the way he does it as a performer, his facial expression changes as well, doesn't it? Like, like
posture changes and everything. Yeah,
almost from like a soft artistic performer to the person that you wouldn't want coming down the street walking towards you, but it's the same person. And of course, I think the vocal matches the acting matches the vocals, but I think because they mush together so well, I think it is, and it increases that level of dread because you feel more unsettled because you were settled beforehand. You go, this is nice. Please let me stay in the nice bit, and then the bad bit happens, and you go, "Oh, you got me again." Like I don't like the bad bit. Speaking of the video, it is filmed in an alleyway, and as much more complex as his other videos have been that we've seen, it's that one stage setting again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I love, and purely obviously for the music video, because I don't imagine it's there on the single or the album track or whatever, but the actual letting the sounds of your environment bleed in, like very much got that in Money Game Part 1, didn't we? Where you could
the
hear
baseball
him,
bat and stuff.
well, but even the scuffs of his feet as he's walking across a kind of wet pavement, and these are all choices, and when we talk about what we like, sometimes it's really hard. There's certain X factors that you could never preemptively say you like because you might not like it in another circumstance. And this is when, for me, great artists really come to the fore, is that he probably didn't sit there and plan out, I want that, or I wanted there to be a puddle there. But just somehow, when they frame it all together, it just comes together so well. And geez, if there's ever an advert for like someone being fantastic, within like 20 seconds he's doing mouth trumpet, and it's brilliant. Like, you know, he can use such simple concepts of sound but make them knit together so perfectly with what he's producing. And probably so far, with the guitar track in the background, it's probably the most simple bit of music we've heard him do. You know, like most of the other tracks we've heard have had a lot more complex. And that's not to say it's simple, but like relatively.
It's the most stripped down.
Yeah, doesn't make it any less interesting though, does it? And if anything, like I think you know, we've said this before on other artists, Immortal Techno being one, but certainly on Ren, of going, you want that vocal to be the star of the show, but not even necessarily because of the vocal, as much as it's brilliant how it transitions out, but because the story is the star of the show. So when you're focusing on like a lot on that vocal, you are hearing that. And of course it's real world for us, isn't it? Like everything that he's describing in here is stuff that, you know, I'm not someone called Jenny, but I've walked down streets. I've walked down streets that I've known for years. I've been to London. I felt uncomfortable. I felt nervous. And I'm sure we're going to find out more about Screech in a minute, but I have heard of and known people like Screech, and you go, yep, you are a master storyteller here, and you're telling a realistic story, but somehow it's still beautiful, whilst being dark and horrible. And I imagine it's going to go more dark and horrible, but he still managed to get a kind of intrinsic artistic beauty to delivering this. You said about him being a storyteller. I think you could go and get the most boring book ever written and give it to this guy, and he would make it interesting, some way, shape, or form. Be it with music or not music. I just think he understands that art and craft of not only how to make a song and do a video, but as you say, how to tell a story.
Yes. So, shall we continue into Screech?
Yeah, and we shall. I must admit, my heart's already out to Jenny. It's a horrible, and again, a realistic story and a horrible story. And I'm kind of already ready to hate Screech even more, regardless of what they do with Screech's story here. Right, let's go.
Our story, it starts right at the end. At the life of poor Jenny, clocked out like Big Ben. Dear Screech, dear boy, where did he go? He melted into the black night just like snow. Patrick, man, let me in, please open the door. I think I fucked up, Patrick, really fucked up, man, I'm not sure. I got crazy, left this lady lying still on the floor. I think I killed her, Patrick, come on, man, I can't knock no more. But Screech kept on knocking till his knuckles became sore. But there's no sign of Patrick down at number 54. No refuge for our villain, for the bitter hands of fate, with something far more sinister in mind that does away. Hey, babe, you in? Nah, nothing really. I'm just a bit tired. Listen, can I swing around yours for a few moments? I just really miss you, babe. What the fuck do you mean you're busy? You fucking bitch! For fuck's sakes! Siren sounds approaching like a banshee in the night. The shrill cry of justice cutting like the sharpest knife. But Screech was never one to run, not one to miss a fight. One hand upon his blade, he turned to face the blue lights. Come on then, you fucking cunts, let's fucking have you then. I am Screech, I'm the boss, I'm the ender of men. You think that uniform you're wearing means that you own these streets? These are my fucking streets, and they call me fucking Screech. Richard was an officer who stood at 6'3", working London on the night shift. What he didn't think he'd see was a boy running at him like an animal possessed. With no time to hesitate, he fired 4 bullets at Screech's chest. Our story, it ends right at the start. Young Screech and poor Jenny lying 1 street apart. An officer shaken by the boy that he claimed. 2 bodies lay lifeless, and it's such a shame. It's such a shame.
Part 2. So Screech, what do we think of Screech?
When you think that he can't sort of twist your emotions more with a story, he fucking goes and does it. That I know. I obviously said we said it was harrowing in the first one, but that's just as bad. It's just as harrowing. It's just emotionally draining in a way. But you're like, no, fuck you. You can't. You deserve that.
Yeah.
But the way that he puts across Screech's desperation and angst, and you're thinking, is there a little bit of sorrow or guilt in him? But then that's all gone away when he decides that he's going to run at him with the knife like an arsehole. And
Well, I mean, like we said, obviously, High Ren has an actually metric ton of autobiographical content in it. Money Game leans more into kind of a world point of view, and of course, like has opinion in it as well. But I think very much looking at the state of the world, whereas. And I mean, I don't know unless someone in his life kind of went through the experience of Jenny or something like that. And I certainly don't think that he is Screech. Like I think he's very, very far apart from that. But maybe like I said earlier, maybe he's known some Screeches, etc., etc., etc. Or maybe this is just based off of looking outside the window and seeing the plight of many people on this planet, the roads that they kind of go down, they get involved in. I don't say like drugs, but like let's sort of bin off the drug thing for a minute. It's more a criminal cultural spiral, and of course this story leads to that. What is often the inevitable end of that spiral is going too far before you can get off of that dark ride, and then when you've gone too far, where else is there to go than spiral even further? You say that like kind of charging at, and in all probability, this is a real story of going that combination of man ego with desperation, as you say, and with knowing that there's no way back from this. Anything you've done before, anything petty that you probably could have took your way out of, you didn't. So what do I do now? almost I'll go for the Blaze of Glory.
Yeah.
A disgusting Blaze of Glory, but a Blaze of Glory all the same. And again, it feels horribly real, doesn't it? Like I said earlier, beautifully put together, but horribly real. And you look at we said the same with when we did Dance with the Devil, Mortal Technique, which is a whole
Yeah.
different planet so far, horribly real, but they hold a very important part because what you hope is that someone who could be Screech listens to this and takes it in and doesn't become Screech way before they become Screech.
Yeah.
Like one of my life things is going, my God, if they've covered it as a story in EastEnders, then any human being who falls into those trappings deserves what they get. Because if EastEnders writers cover this, then like we should all see it coming. But like we said about the importance. Like we love a song with a message, don't we? We love a song with a story, and this is why I love a song with a message and a story. Is this does not, of course, we got a third part to come. This does not any way, shape, or form glorify Screech's experience, and if anything, I hope that this prevents further Screeches.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, because I meant to bring it up in the first part, but it's more prevalent at the beginning of this one, is Ren's guitar playing.
I'm
It's
glad you're going
fucking
there because
stunning.
I wrote a note to bring up about that because I thought, God, I forgot to talk about the guitar work in number one and how it leads on to here. But go on, you go.
It's just one of those of you very rarely get that sort of level of intricateness for when the rest of the song is pretty sort of standard playing. But see that intro bit where he's like really sort of delicate, almost sort of classical like classical European style playing, like the Spanish sort of guitar stuff.
Tick. I wrote down Spanish on mine.
Yeah, and it's just like that works so well, and it just
Funny, did we get the same musical references? Bingo. Yep, I had Spanish down for the start of the song. Yeah.
and then that playing of the single note play of with the gunshots as well, and it's just like
Tick on bingo. I wrote down the gunshots on the guitar. I mean, I'm not going to say it's
simple,
the
but
first time anyone's ever done anything like that.
yeah,
I'm sure people have, but brilliant nonetheless. And people don't do it very often, and people I don't think do it as effective as that very often because if they are doing it, I haven't heard it many times and not done as well as this. There was a couple other bits I wrote down, like, as I say, like once I was listening to that, because as soon as it started going, and I picked up on like I thought, there's a real kind of, as you say, a kind of Spanish, Hispanic-y kind of vibe to the beginning, and it reminded me partially with some of the delivery of the lyrics as well, but I felt that the first song, after the mouth trumpets, we kind of lent into a lot more of a kind of soft reggae, raggery sort of style with the guitar and the way the vocals are delivered. And I didn't know, like when we did Money Game Part 3, obviously you have the kind of almost the Money Game hook that comes through everything, and I didn't know
yeah,
what would musically tie this together. So then I was sort of quite surprised to feel like I was being drawn into almost kind of a different world, and I liked it. I liked being drawn into that world because I just went, okay, there's a differentiation between these stories, but very, very quickly, for me, it jumped out of Spanish. It jumped into effectively what was a musical, and all the way through that, I was trying to rack my brains of what bloody musical it was triggered in my head, but I couldn't remember. But a Fiddler on the Roof, like it suddenly kind of went into what I think of as more of a kind of Polish polka kind of beat to it, and then it gets into a kind of faster, albeit on a acoustic guitar, but even kind of a rockier beat as the pace of his delivery comes up, and then of course you get the drop out for the phone call. Like that phone call was brilliant for me because it just rang as so true and so real, and
and there was a C bomb.
yeah, and look, I don't like Screech. Said that beforehand. I still don't like Screech. But I like this part of the story. It reminds me of the best versions of films about gangsters or TV shows about gangsters, be it American, be it British, like be it like Top Boys and stuff like this, but never portraying the bad guy as the hero. You know, clearly sort of going, they're bad, with a bit of caveating as to why they might be bad, because everyone's got a story, but going, no, what they do is bad. Yeah, fantastic, absolutely love this bit. I guess the truth is really intrigued to see what comes next, because we've had, and you know, a key point at the end where it goes, 2 lives lost, what a shame. And like, if nothing else, and no matter what they do in part 3, I think that's a key message here. Again, I'll compare this to Immortal Technique's Dance with the Devil, of going, that's what these songs should do, is they should go, regardless of whether it's the victim or the perpetrator, ultimately, if you go down certain paths, unnecessary loss of life is going to happen, and that is a tragedy.
Yeah. So, shall we get into part 3?
Yeah, part 3 is Violet, who we have not been introduced to yet. So, come on, Violet, give us a happy-go-lucky transition out into this. I don't think it's going to be that, but let's go.
London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington is fighting just to stay alive. Rhythmic beats and bloodstains, she saw a lady weep, she's tired and frail. To set the scene, we must rewind the hands of time for Violet's tale. Violet was a silent girl, grew up with violent starts. Her mother was a drinker and her father was a bastard. Every night he took her tie but never left the room. I'll spare you with the things he did, I'm sure her mother knew. Violet was a silent girl, she moved out at 16. A semi-detached council flat, paid for by a welfare scheme. Packing shelves at Tesco, stacking jars like pickled bricks. She met a boy named Stevie and he was a little prick. Violet was a silent girl and Violet she fell fast. See, Stevie was a wrong un, but he sure knew how to charm her. Every night he took her tie but never left the room. History repeats itself, he'd paint her black and blue and dark. She never stood a chance. The devil comes to dance. Violet, why are you always so quiet? Oh on her bedroom door and he's irate. He's been drinking and smoking, he's up late. And he stands by her bedside, she shakes, but her eyes stay shut. You fucking slut, I know you're up. And he pinches her eyelids and folds them up. Violet, why you lying to me, Violet? She stays silent, things turn violent. That's the sound of his fists when they fall like a crashing pilot. Hit like hailstones, one to the collarbone, full force, full blown, blood splat, bone crack, knick knack, paddy whack, one to the jaw and the tooth spat, detached, fist connects and disconnects a bone. A quick deflect to misdirect the blow, but nonetheless his punches met her throat. Such a mess he's left her bruised and broke. Violet, why you always so silent, Violet? Why you such a little liar, Violet? Do you think I want to do this, Violet? In character, she stays silent. Well, say something, Violet. Silence. Fucking say something, Violet. Silence. Wait. Say something, Violet. Not one word. She stays quiet. London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington is fighting just to stay alive. The doctor, in a state of shock, saw something here so very wrong. See, Violet, she was pregnant. Poor Violet, she was 9 months gone. Turning to the doctor, Violet broke her silence and she cried, if I'm to die right here tonight, please let my baby stay alive. The doctor soon regained composure, called the surgeon to come in. As Violet's world turned to black, the curtains closed, the lights went dim. In London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington just lost the fight to stay alive. A tragedy or a miracle, it happened on these very streets. Two twins aligned side by side. A girl named Jenny and a boy named Screech.
And that is Violet's Tale, to kind of clear off the trilogy. So before we go into it, we're not going anywhere. I kind of want to split it down, I think, into kind of three distinct sections for me. And I mean like the Violet bit rather than the whole kit and caboodle. Because I think there's a couple of key points in it where I guess when certain subject matters come in, where I think some of the stuff I want to say about the rest of it seems really trite because of the subject matter of it is. So I kind of wanted to maybe get us to the point where we get to the domestic violence situation. So kind of everything up to there, because I guess before that I'm more interested in maybe getting to some of the music and some of the framing and stuff like that. Whereas I think when we hit that subject matter, some of that gets in the bin, doesn't it? Because it's the subject matter that kind of overrules. But and bearing in mind some of the bits that I kind of wrote down here, I don't know why I've started writing stuff down all of a sudden, but I have. Probably because my memory's so bad. Really doesn't fit with where this song goes. But I wrote off, and I don't know what they're called, but I put his nightie gets a lot of work in his videos, doesn't he? Like his medical gown, that's what they're called, aren't they? Like it's kind of an outfit of choice for the boy, wasn't it? But you know how we talked about what the music was doing in parts 1 and 2. And this one, like, I just wrote down really quickly. This is a spaghetti western, isn't it? This is Ennio Morricone doing the good, the bad, and the ugly level stuff. And partially, like, because that leans into it with the acoustic guitar and obviously what he was doing with it. But I loved that, like, because we talked about storytelling in part 1 of it, and I may be leaning into, when I said in the last one, I felt like there was some sort of Fiddler on the Roof sort of stuff in there. I guess leaning into music that is used in films and shows and things like that,
Yeah,
and probably really does help with that storytelling process. But yeah, I really, 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 really liked what he was doing musically with this.
yeah. The guitar work, especially like that beginning part where these, I would say I would call it a solo, even though it's not very, what you would think of as a solo. Um, that that finger tap technique that he's doing in that is just, even though it is a simple riff as such, that is a level of skill that very few people can pull off and make it work the way that it does in
Well, it allows to
this.
have a drum beat, doesn't it, without having drums?
Yeah,
Like it allows that rhythmic drum element to be introduced into it, like regularly, just by using his hand on the guitar. And I say, well, as you say, just by using it, because it's simple. I mean, God, it's not simple. Otherwise, people would be doing it left, right, and centre. But probably conceptually, and once you know how to do it, it probably is perceived as quite simple. But yeah, like it adds that percussion that you don't get in anywhere else in a lot of his tracks, or say a lot of his tracks, like we've done a lot of his tracks, but in some of the tracks that we've done, like Money Game Part Two is the only one that really kind of stands out for me as one with because it's got like a kind of a lot more of a hip hop element kind of beat to it that I
yeah,
think brings that percussion in. So yeah, I'm with you. It allows for that percussive element to come into the song.
and yeah, and even like the guitar work through the rest of the song as well. There's that sort of lilt to it through a lot of it that's sort of
Yeah.
very sort of similar, but there's so much accenting on stuff at times and just
Yep.
a slight change to it or
Does it with
just
his
an
voice
extra
as well, doesn't he?
notes. Yeah,
And I think that's what I love about it is that he does it both with his, and not necessarily at the same time, but he does it with the voice and the guitar of going, if I need to, stroke want to, or I think it requires this to be extended as a sentence or as a string of notes, he will allow it that extra time that it needs, or add in those couple of extra notes that probably wouldn't be there in a more traditional like pop song or something like that. You know, it's not following that kind of set boom, 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 boom formula. And I
yeah,
know there are musical terminology that would replace me going boom, 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 boom. But also, I'm not a musical scholar and don't want to make a twat of myself by using terminology that I don't really understand.
yeah. It doesn't fit the standard 4/4
Yeah,
beat
and that
pattern.
was the thing. I was kind of going, and when I say that I have a very, very, very basic knowledge of that and stuff that I learned when reading up about like kind of how Radiohead create their songs. But when I say basic, I understand they involve numbers, and sometimes Radiohead use very, very weird combinations of numbers. Don't understand how it works though. Speaking of the guitar work though, and this is again perpetuates in a lot of the stuff we've done of his. Love how he does his transitions, and when I mean his transitions, his movement in time transitions to the story and things like that. And
Yeah,
he'll just do like a little kind of breakdown or a little build up or something like that. And it pulls you as I almost said the reader then. I guess that's part of a good descriptor of it though, because sometimes this feels like I'm reading a story rather than hearing a song. But it takes me as the listener from so the first one that they do is he's there in his 90 and he's kind of framing it as we're going back into the past, and then he does that transition down and then you go, okay, I'm in the past now. I Even though you told me, I know that we're going into the past as in now. You're going to tell that part of the story now, and it's great. It really is. Hats off to him for again even putting that in, because he could have just done the line, this happened in the past,
yeah.
pause, go to the past. Just
It,
a
it
level above.
yes, it's a craftsmanship and a dedication to song structuring that very you don't see
Yeah,
in majority of pop, especially pop stuff, but even like sort of arty things. So if you look at like metal or like jazz or punk or even R&B and hip hop and things like that, stuff that's not just for your mainstream throwaway
yeah,
consumption stuff. Even that sort of stuff doesn't put that extra bit in that
To a
serves,
large
in
part.
theory, no purpose other than it makes sense
Well,
to
I'm
him to
glad.
use it.
I'm glad you used the word serve there because in my head, like when I was thinking, and I'm with you on that, I was thinking often intricate or transitions or moving around your song is it often feels like it's there to serve the audience, serve the song. Whereas I think where this feels fundamentally different is this feels like it's there to serve the story, which
Yeah,
then by extension serves the audience and serves the songs. It feels like there's more to it, or more. It's more purposeful here, and maybe that's what in my mind is making it better than. I mean, jazz is quite a good example. One day on this channel, we're going to get into a bit more jazz because I have some fear for jazz and I have some love for jazz, but I've seen some very, very, very complex performances done, and that there are times where I think it's done for a jazz audience, whereas, as I say, this is done for the story and by extension the audience that wants to come along with this story. I think this is more
yeah,
of maybe a bit more of an open way of doing it, but yeah, by no way is it less impressive. In fact, if anything, I think it is more impressive because I think it serves more purposes than oft that sort of thing is done in it there. Just a couple more things before we get into some of the harder stuff, I guess, is said it in the alleyway, but loved it when he moved into the corridor and getting the reverb of the corridor. Having the confidence in the thing that you're creating to kind of go, the sound isn't going to be perfect now. It's going to have an echo because I'm walking down a corridor singing this song. Loved it. And I might change my mind on this over time, but this as a singular vocal, so I'm going to say High Ren kind of wins because of that competing voices
yeah,
by that regard. But as a singular vocal, I think this is my favourite. This part is my favourite vocal I think I've heard of his. I think he it is so much about his vocal, as I say, up until we get to a little bit later on. But yeah, I think this is my favourite vocal performance so far from him.
yeah. This is up there. Like we're gonna run out of superlatives for him at this point because.
Yeah, I'm going to need to replace the pad I wrote notes down on and get a thesaurus out or something like that because
But yeah,
it's good in it. We could just say it's good in it over and over
yeah.
again. Like, yeah,
So shall we go on to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the story
Where it,
part?
yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
hard, isn't it? Like, and that's the first word I wrote down is this is hard. And when I mean hard, I don't mean it's hard to write this. This is hard storytelling. I touch wood. I've never experienced domestic violence myself, but I do. There's something inherent in it that always hits me
hmm,
hard, and I think more often than not, it's something we see in TV movies, isn't it? And it's not often covered in song or covered like this in a song, should I say? And I found that this whole section really, really, really hard to watch and listen to, and it's hard because I almost didn't enjoy it. No, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't almost didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it, but I wasn't meant to, and I think that's what makes this brilliant.
yeah, it is that thing of obviously everything that he says in this is truthful in that way of what that situation is, and the idea of the story basically repeating itself again. That that abused as a kid ends up in an abusive relationship, and
Yeah,
that same sort of patterns that follow. And yeah, it was how he tells that, and you get trying to think the right word because the because it's not the right level because there's no such thing as a right level because this shit's wrong. But there is that right level of spite and right level of
Yeah, yeah,
cuntiness
yeah.
from the protagonist.
Yeah, to make it feel genuine, to make it
Yeah,
not feel cheap. Like you, like so. I, I'm gonna slightly go off kilter from that bit, but to come back to exactly what you're saying there. So, one of the things that I think makes this really really hard is you know, you sort of said about the cyclical nature of growing up in an environment. The only thing that really done me in was Violet, the quiet girl who works in the shop, and you go, who doesn't, and who doesn't experience in multifaceted ways of your life, be it in the shop or people that you work with who are quiet. And that's not to say that everyone who is quiet is involved in domestic violence, but I'm kind of like, this is how good the storytelling is. I'm kind of listening to that bit going, shit, how many people do I know that I don't know are potential, and hopefully not many, you know, that's the hope.
yeah,
But I think the truth of it is that like, and again, it's that quiet bit. It's that people suffering in silence because they don't feel. We did it when God, I really am jumping back to like old references. So when we did Capital Steez, and of course that was a real situation when he killed himself, and it's those sort of things of. Um, I find those parts of stories really really hard. That not only does horrible things happen all around the world to people, but people don't have any outlets. They don't have anyone to turn to. They don't have that trusted person who can help them get out of that situation. And the situation's so bad that they find themselves stuck in it until it comes to a really, really horrible end. And it is hard. I'll go hard again because it is real. However, and this is what I'm circling back to what you were saying, I promise, is what makes it equally hard as well is he gets across who, and it is Steve, isn't it? Wasn't it Steve, her fella?
yeah,
Yeah. How who Steve is. Steve is so spiteful, so controlling, so disgusting that he treats Violet like a subhuman because that's who Steve is. But it's so believable, it's horrible, isn't it? It makes it even more horrible because you're going, I think this is believable because we all know Steves exist. And as much as I said that, like, I don't know whether there's any autobiographical elements to any other part of this, and I hope that, like, you know, he's never been in an abusive parent-child thing, but I get the feeling after this that he's met a Steve, and
yeah.
he's had to experience a Steve in some way, shape, or form, and yeah, it was. You know, as we said, we need a thesaurus. I can think of no other word to use in this than such a hard. I found this harder than Dance with the Devil during that part. I really did.
Yeah,
Because
this
I
is
think,
harrowing.
yeah, and I think the dark places that it goes to is unfortunately such a commonplace dark place for so many people that's what makes it that much more horrific for me.
Yeah, and then obviously you get that end part where you know she just wants the kids to be born, and
Yeah, yeah.
turns
Despite
out,
what's happened to her, she wants that life to have a chance.
and then we turn out that it's Jenny and Screech, and because I'm gonna guess that you know they were probably adopted, different
Yeah, put into
families,
some
in
degree
the
of
care
care.
and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah, yeah,
and never knew each other, and that's how you ended up with that. And it is, I know it's quite a tropey thing that you do get in like TV and stuff of the oh they never knew they were family thing,
yeah,
but it is also really real as well that in a care situation someone isn't going to want to take two kids and
yeah,
they get split up. And the thing is, with the fact of her dying on by giving birth, they were probably separated as babies,
yeah, yeah,
so they never had even knew that they had a sibling and all that sort of thing. And it is again, it's just another turning of that same circle of abuse into abuse into potentially abuse, because it was why was Screech the cunt that he was? Was he, you
And
know,
why did their paths go so differently? You know,
yeah,
but born from the same parent, like what is like almost two sides of a coin, and how different that two sides can turn out depending on the circumstances that you have to live through.
yeah,
I did write down though, like, and like I love this. I want that on record. I think this is brilliant. I have written down though. I think the end will take me a bit of time to decide on whether I like it or not. I actually wrote down really early on, she's the parent, and it's not like me going, "Oh, I saw the twist coming." I just felt like it was there, and um, I was probably more in for it when I thought that was going to be the twist. But that section around the domestic violence was so powerful for me that um, at the moment I'm somewhere between going, I think that was always the end of the story, and I think it opens up all of that interesting kind of thought process and discussion around the separate paths and how these can lead to two dramatically different lives. So I don't think it was done for a kind of a cheap twist pop.
yeah. It wasn't M Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Give me a twist because I have to
However,
have one.
I think where I'm not entirely sure how I land on it is because I found everything else so powerful that I think even though I don't think it's a cheap twist, it I I think it struggles just off first listen to live up to everything else that was done in that song.
Hmm.
So that it almost feels a bit cheaper because everything else was so wonderful. But yeah, I don't know. In 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 listens time, I think I might become more of a fan of that bit. But and also without, I don't know how you'd end it without that. Like, and why is Violet's Tale? There's almost a part of me that I almost want Violet's Tale to be a song of its own. To stand alone and not have links to the other bit. But then also, do I really want to listen to a harrowing song about domestic violence over and over again? Probably not. But you know, like I said,
Yeah,
like I said about sort of the beauty of I think of what he does with a lot of his stuff is, um, I don't think if a Steve hears, like we said, like if a pre-Screech hears this, it might lead him down a different path. I don't necessarily think this leads a Steve down a different path, but hopefully it leads a Violet to turn to someone.
yeah,
And so I think it's massively important because of that. And I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about the ending, but regardless of mixed feelings, that does not in any way negatively impact how we got there, because I think this is brilliant again. Thanks to the people who recommended it. I can see why this is absolutely amazing.
yeah. Obviously, if I'm going to try this in there, anyone that is in that situation, there are
Yeah.
fa- like phone numbers that you can ring. I don't know them. I can't.
What I'll do
But
is like I'll try and find some. Look, we're in the UK, so I will lean
yeah,
into UK. I will put some stuff up at the end of the video rather than the usual bollocks that we put up there of like and subscribe and join us on this, that, and the other. Like as the end bit, we'll put some stuff up around some assistance for anyone going through domestic violence.
because and I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to just because I think I have to. Uh, my mum and dad was a violent thing, and that has hit me
Yeah,
because I grew up in it,
yeah,
and yeah, so
and and you know we talk about like the power of something like this, and you know I said to you, I feel really lucky that I've never had to go through that, and that kicked the shit out of me. Um, and I think that's, and again, I exponentially destroy people even more. But I think that's why stuff like this has to exist,
yeah,
because I think we need to. We spend a lot of our lives trying to hide away from the bad things, rightfully so, because who wants to see the bad things all the time? But we need to talk about these things, and it needs to be highlighted because we need to openly discuss things, and we need to say to people, if you're in a situation like this, please, you know, reach out. Like, there are people might be going on their lives and they might assume they don't care, but a lot of the time, because we manifest as not caring, but most of us really do care. We just might need to be told about it to know that we need to care. And yeah.
So yeah, I'm not going to do the usual plugs. Just
No.
if as I said, if you're in that situation, we'll have numbers and shit at the end, and yeah.
Yeah, and like for anyone who's doing this for the first time and people who've come along, like because they already know the song, I hope for those people like us who are seeing this for the first time, I hope they got as much out of it as we did, because I do think it's great. And for those who are coming along because they've heard it before, and they recommended it to us, thanks, because as harrowing and as hard as it was, I think it's brilliant. And you know. We do this. We hope for fun songs sometimes. We said this before, don't we? We do hope for a bit of a jolly, and we hope for. But this is probably what we wanted when we first started. This is to find things that not only do we find amazing musically, but really deliver something, really deliver a message into the world that needs to be out there.
So until next time.